All right, Shacker and I were just having a conversation as the open played and this song was going. This is Family Man from Hall & Oates. He
Great
informed
song.
me that my story of Family Man is number 2 on his list of his favorite all-time Chad stories. His favorite is the bus driver in Oklahoma that gave me a horse.
That's my favorite right there. that is, I mean, I don't know if at the time, we would have reported that to the authorities, I think.
Okay.
That's a story you could tour on.
Yeah, I could tour on that. That would be my go-to if I was a stand-up comic. Real quick, I'll tell you the story because it is true. And you got to remember, we do things differently in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
But I grew up in a small town just outside of Tulsa, Manford, Oklahoma, which nearly got taken off the map with a tornado back in 1984. But that's neither here nor there. I had a bus driver. His name was Kirk, and he was one of the nicest guys you could ever imagine.
Of course he was.
Yeah. And in Manford, the schools, like the town is really small. I think still today, based on the latest consensus, it's like 2,000 people. It was probably less when I was living there back in the day. But it was small enough to where the high schoolers, the middle schoolers, and the grade schoolers all rode the same bus.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got an education on a lot of different things. My mom probably didn't want me to get an education on back in the day from kids in the back of the bus. Well, my stop was always the last stop on the route coming home from school. And, Kirk and I developed a relationship where we would talk, and he would take care of me. One day I was sick where I was vomiting, and so he helped me all the way up to my long driveway up to the doorway to my house and stuff, which was nice. And then one morning, we had moved out to this country house just outside of the neighborhood there in Salt Creek. And I came downstairs on Christmas one day, and there were notes coming down the stairs directing me to the French doors on the side of the house. And so I walked out, and there just happened to be snow that particular Christmas in Oklahoma. And I walk outside on the patio that wrapped around the house, and on one of the posts, there was a sign that said, "Feed me," and tied up to the post was my horse, Charlie. Well, come to find out that the horse that I got for Christmas that year was provided by my bus driver, Kirk. Now, at the time, I was young, so it didn't occur to me that a bus driver trying to give horses or candy or special juice to kids might be a little bit questionable.
Suspect.
Yeah. But now looking back at it, I'm like, dang, a bus driver gave me a horse named Charlie. My parents were cool with that. Nowadays, if a bus driver tried to offer a kid any horse, he's getting arrested immediately, and they're calling 911.
I'm surprised your dad didn't beat up the bus driver right away.
I know. So there you go. That's the story about Charlie. And then the story about Family Man. There were certain things that my mom did not want me to have access to when I was younger because she walks the straight and narrow, and she didn't want to pollute my mind to be polluted. And so my cousin Darren had took me to the mall, and I wanted to buy some music. So I got the Hall & Oates H2O album because they had Maneater and had some great songs. Great album, by the way.
Yeah.
Family Man being one of the great songs. Well, I thought it was all good until my mom started examining some of the music that was on the album, and she listened to Family Man, and she realized real quick what that song was about. And, of course, it was oblivious to me because I was younger. The album got busted up and put in the garbage because of the material on the album. So there you go.
She actually broke the record?
Yeah, she told me it was inappropriate, and she did not want me to listen to it. And so that's how that went down. And Shacker loves the story. I don't think it's funny at all. That was a great album that got ripped up, man.
Yeah.
Not cool. So, big week. Blazers going to kick off tomorrow. You and I are going to talk some Blazers on the show today in preparation for the opener. It's going to be tomorrow night, tip-off at 7. The Warriors are in town. That means Steph Curry. And tickets are still available. So you can go to trailblazers.com right now, get your tickets, secure your spot for the game tomorrow night. And Moda Health is going to have a awesome Rip City T-shirt giveaway. And you've been to a billion openers, Godfather. There's not a much better way to start the season than with Steph Curry coming to town. One of the ultimate tickets in town to watch.
That's what I was thinking too, Chad. You can get Steph Curry on opening night. And it used to be when teams had their choice of opponents on opening night, they would never pick a team with Steph Curry on it because he can sell you out on a Monday night.
Yeah.
You don't need him on opening night. The opener was usually automatic sellout or near sellout anyway, just because it's first game.
That's correct.
You don't want to waste Steph Curry on an opener. But
No.
we get him on opening night. That's a treat.
I think so. It's good. So coming up on the show today, it's a Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. So we have a pair of tickets to give away at 4, and we have a pair of tickets that we'll give away at 5:20. So all you have to do is listen to Dwight and I for your chance to win today, and then that's every Tuesday. Between now and the end of the basketball season, we'll have tickets to give away to every home game. courtesy of your Portland Trailblazers. A Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, every Tuesday on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Coming up at 3:20, Frank Schwab of Yahoo Sports going to join us to talk NFL. A lot of big topics going on in the league right now. And then at 4:20, one of our good friends and coworkers here in the building, Sunny Ray, really sweet lady, has embarked on this journey to run marathons.
Mm-hmm.
Just your ordinary, average lady, but extraordinary. Mom, husband, great sales lady. And she decided a few years ago to start running, and now she's run multiple marathons, including the one she just wrapped up in Chicago. So we're going to get her story because I think people will enjoy hearing it. And she inspires me, so I hope that it does the same for you and inspires you as well. I want to start with this from what we saw last night on Monday Night Football. A couple of games that were subpar in terms of play, a lot of sloppiness last night.
Yeah.
But the big story is Chris Godwin went down with a horrific injury for the Buccaneers last night on Monday Night Football. And just listening to Baker Mayfield after the game, Godwin clearly is a great guy in the community, a phenomenal teammate, and someone that shows up early, leaves late, practices and plays the right way, and does a lot of good things. He was broken up at losing a teammate like Godwin. But a lot of criticism is going towards Tampa Bay head coach Todd Bowles for having Godwin in the game, in a game that had basically gotten away from them because Baltimore was dominating. Now, they did make a late push and got themselves back in the game and lost only by 10. Do you think Bowles deserves any of the blame for the injury that was suffered by Godwin?
You know, Chad, I don't. I think if you watch a lot of NFL, you know they keep players on the field a lot longer than your local high school or even college does. I mean, they don't have big rosters in the NFL like the college teams do. They don't have a lot of backups. And basically the NFL philosophy is you play the game till the end, and you never count yourself out of a game. And I don't think a coach wants his players to think, oh, the coach has given up on us, even if it's 10 points with a minute to go. So what? It's happened. You know, you can do it. So they try.
I have a Chad policy where I try to avoid watching or rewatching clips of gruesome injuries.
Yeah, I have the same policy. Yeah.
I don't like to see it because it disturbs me because I don't want to see people get hurt like that. It was so gruesome that ESPN didn't even show the replay.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even go back to the replay once that I'm aware of. That's when you know it's bad. If they're not willing to show it again, because TV always likes to show the gruesome details, they didn't even go back for the replay on that, which shows how bad it was. And you could see his mouth when he was on the cart as they're getting to wheel him off the field. You could read his lips. He's like, time to go back to work. I mean, his mindset was like, this sucks and I hate it, but it's time to get back to work and start the process of rehab. I don't know what the answer is for an NFL player. Like, it seems to me that if you're in a game and you have even the slightest chance to get back into it and put yourself in a position to win, then you keep your guys in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If it's a 30-point game and you're getting just completely clowned,
that's different.
That's different. But if you're storming back into the game and you can maybe have a chance to get it down to a one-possession game, even with the opportunity of an onside kick or two, then it would seem to me you got to continue to pursue the win. Because sometimes, not often, but sometimes teams make mistakes, crazy things happen, and a couple of bounces of that pigskin, and before you know it, you could have a chance to tie the game up.
Yeah, you can recover one onside kick, and then you can recover another one, believe it or not. It could happen. You know, anything can happen. So you just keep playing. And honestly, Chad, I used to get really upset in the NFL when they would be in a 30-point game, and that starting quarterback was still on the field. Quite often, they never put the backup in. And I always thought, why not give the guy a few minutes out on the field? But a lot of teams, their policy is not, they just play the quarterback all the way through.
I mean, throughout Elway's career, even in blowouts, he was in right up until about the last series of the game.
He didn't want that backup in, did he?
No. Most quarterbacks don't. They want to stay on the field and play. They don't want some guy stepping in their place, and I understand that. So we'll get to more of that coming up with Frank Schwab. In the other game, Arizona came back, last-second field goal, 2 seconds on the clock. They kick it and get the win over the Chargers, 17-15. And from what I can see from the Chargers so far this year, Godfather, they're in this process of learning Harbaugh ball. But the problem is they're like the 49ers right now. They're so beat up in multiple areas with injuries that they're suffering in key spots. Red zone offense, not being able to put points on the board, finish off drives. They're settling for field goals. Justin Herbert threw for 349 yards last night, and they kicked 5 field goals. In the NFL, it's pretty simple. If you turn it over, you're going to lose most of the games. if you settle for field goals, it's going to come back to haunt you.
Mhm.
It always does. And that was the case last night where Arizona didn't make the big mistake, and Kyler Murray made enough plays to where it kept Arizona in a position to get back into that game and win it late because the Chargers had to keep settling for field goals.
Yeah, I mean, you get 5 field goals. If just once out of 5 you get a touchdown, you win the game. I mean, this is crazy stuff.
Yeah, and the injuries up front for the Chargers on the offensive line, I think the Chargers ran it for like 49 yards last night. It's going to be hard for Harbaugh and his offense, the way they want to do things, to have great success if they can't have some type of balance in the offense. They're better when they're able to run the football and stay in those, manageable third down situations, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3,
Yeah.
3rd and 5. But when they can't run it, they don't get the balance, then it puts Herbert in a more of a press situation where he's got to face pressure, and he's not 100%. So I think the Chargers are going to be fine. You can see that they're playing differently, but too many mistakes last night too. Long pass completion looked like it was going to be a touchdown, fumbled out of the end zone, touchback for Arizona.
Yeah, terrible.
That's like the Chargers organization. It's a microcosm of what they're all about.
They have the patent on that kind of play.
Yeah, just when you think things are going well and they're about to turn a corner, a guy catches a ball and fumbles it out of the end zone. That's Charger football right there.
They lose a lot of close games, too. That's never a good sign for a football team.
No, and I do expect that to change because of their quarterback and their head coach. But right now, they just have to focus on getting healthy. That loss drops the Chargers to 3-3. The Broncos are 4-3. The Chiefs undefeated. So the Broncos and Chargers will battle for a playoff spot this year. Neither one of those teams will win the division. I think the Chiefs have a death grip on the division right now, but we'll see how things continue to play out. But if you look at the Chargers' schedule coming up, they've got some winnable games. But last night was one of those games where you're going to look back at the end of the year if you just barely missed the postseason and think, man, that's a game we coughed up. We should have had. We should have
Sure
had.
is.
And I don't know what you thought about that penalty. We saw this happen again where the officials threw a flag. Thought it was going to be called PI, but then they discussed it and decided the ball was not catchable because the receiver broke off his route. Herbert threw a deep ball towards the end zone, and it wasn't catchable. So I didn't have a problem with the call, but it's very rare that you see officials pick up a flag on defensive holding or pass interference.
Well, and also in the NFL, it's really hard to have an uncatchable pass because the referees tend to believe those guys can catch everything.
Yeah. And depending on the receiver, it may not be totally untrue. Some guys are amazing at being able to high point balls.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. Frank Schwab, Yahoo Sports, is going to come up next. We'll get his take on Bulls and what he thought about that situation last night. We'll get his take on what's next for the Cleveland Browns with the Deshaun Watson injury. And the 49ers, are they in trouble at 3-4 and like the Chargers beat up with injuries? That's coming up next on the Rip City Drive. All right, we go out to the phones. Our next guest covers the NFL and all things sports from Yahoo Sports on X at Yahoo Schwab. Frank Schwab is back. Hey, Frank, it's great to have you back on the show. Aside from the addition of Derrick Henry, which is substantial, what do you think's been the key for Lamar Jackson to take that next step in his game in terms of being a passer?
You know, I think it just has been Henry opening things up, and I mean, we're talking about a two-time MVP, and he already was at a pretty elite level.
It's true.
And you know, I mean, Zay Flowers breaking out a little bit, that helps. You know, I mean, he had some, big game from Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews coming around, so he's getting help that way. I just think he was already great, and now he's just great plus with Derrick Henry alongside him. I mean, once it's a lot different handing off to Derrick Henry than it is handing off to Justice Hill. I mean, the safeties have to come up. They have to. I mean, it's just a different deal where you can't have a 7-man box against Derrick Henry, or he's got to break an 81-yard run like he did last night. So I don't know how you guard this offense. I'll tell you that. Like, it's pick your poison, because it's not just as simple as, okay, Lamar's great in the passing game, Derrick Henry's great in the running game. We'll take one of those away, because Lamar can obviously beat you in the running game too. There's so many dimensions to this offense that I just don't, I don't think anybody's really going to slow them down that much this year. It's pretty much they have this elite offense in the AFC, and Detroit has this elite offense in the NFC, and it's just fun to watch either of those teams.
Frank, Justin Herbert, 349 yards passing last night, but they got 5 field goals out of it. That's all. Well, what do you think the issue is with the Charger offense?
They want to play a way that I don't think they're equipped to play. I mean, Harbaugh, wants to ground and pound. That's kind of always been his deal, and it's going to keep scores close. And sometimes that's not what you want in the NFL. And even, yesterday though, when Herbert throws for 349, they just couldn't cash any of them in for touchdowns. I mean, they, kept settling for field goals, and that's going to beat you in the NFL. I've always thought that this season was going to be kind of Harbaugh's reintroduction into the NFL. There were going to be some bumps in the road. There were going to, some games that just gave them problems, and he's got to adjust, and he's got to get his personnel in there, and it's going to take a little bit of time. He will be a really, really good coach for them. He's not bad already. I mean, they're 500. They're not terrible. But I just think before we see, like, oh, this is the Jim Harbaugh Chargers that's putting a scare into the Kansas City Chiefs, that's a year or two away. I always kind of figured that this year was going to be just a kind of a transition year, let's say, and they're going to be competitive in every game, and they're going to be fine, but I don't think they're going to be a playoff team until at least next year, and maybe 2 years from now.
Hey, Frank, the Bucs have been one of the good stories in the NFL, and Baker's resurgence there has been fun to watch, and their offense has been pretty dynamic. How much is the Godwin injury going to impact that?
Yeah, and the Evans injury. I mean, they've already said he's probably going to be out through week 11. And,
horrible.
Wow. What do you do? Like, that is your offense. Your offense really isn't even Baker Mayfield. It's those receivers. I mean, Baker's done a good job, don't get me wrong, but if you were to point and say, what's the strength of this offense, I think immediately everybody would say, well, they have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Well, no, they don't anymore. And, no offense to Jalen McMillan or Sterling Shepard or whoever they're going to throw out there, it's just such a downgrade for them. I feel bad because, I mean, this was a very good Buccaneers team, I thought. I mean, they'd been playing well, started well last night. Evans drops a pass, goes out with a hamstring, and everything fell apart. Now you wonder, I don't know that they can win this division anymore. I think it's not that the Falcons are good. I don't think the Falcons are very good. And they've shown that kind of week after week here. But I don't know how the Buccaneers can even kind of maintain the pace they're on without those two receivers. It just completely changes their offense, and I don't know if they're equipped for that. It stinks, and especially to lose Godwin the way they did. Minute to go in the game. When you're down by 10, you really have no chance to win. I understand, I guess, where Todd Bowles is coming from, that, hey, the game ain't over yet. Well, I guess. And you never can really predict injuries, but this is a really, really, really tough way to lose a superstar like Chris Godwin, who is having an incredible year. And, yeah, I just don't think the Buccaneers can even come close to replicating what they've been the first 7 weeks of the season without those guys.
All right, Frank, at 3-4, the 49ers are running out of receivers rapidly. Can they right the ship?
I don't know. I mean, I kept kind of making excuses for them every week. Oh, this was a weird comeback win for the Rams, and you lost to the Vikings. No big deal. The Vikings are a pretty good football team, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Finally, it's like, well, we're 7 weeks into the season, and you're below 500. I get that's not a huge sample size, but it's almost half the season, and you're still kind of stuck in neutral. And now, like you said, the injuries are piling up. Even Kittle's hurt with the foot, and McCaffrey. Who knows what he's going to be this season? I think they're in a lot of trouble. I don't know if anybody in the NFC West can really take advantage of it. We'll see what Seattle is going forward. They're the one team, obviously, that could, but to get the number one seed in the NFC, they pretty much have to win out at this point. They'd have to go 10-0 the rest of the way, and they're not doing that. So I think it's going to be a pretty big struggle for the 49ers to get where they want to go, because they're in that unfortunate position of, if they go to the Super Bowl and lose, it's a disappointing season for them, right? Like, that's where they've been. That's what they've done already. Just to repeat that wouldn't make anybody excited. So they have such high expectations this year, and it's getting harder and harder to see them meeting them, just because there's just this, there's just something a little bit off with this team, and a lot of that is the injuries. And in some of these cases, I'm not sure, especially with Ayuk, you're not getting him back. I don't know what we're getting out of Christian McCaffrey. This team is obviously not going to be whole the whole season. So, yeah, they're in a little bit of trouble, I think.
We're talking with Frank Schwab, Yahoo Sports, here on the Rip City Drive. What's your take on this year's version of the Kansas City Chiefs?
Oh, they're really good. They're really, really good. And I think you can kind of tell who's paying attention and who's not by if somebody tells you, oh, my goodness, Patrick Mahomes just carrying them again. No, this is a defensive team. The defense is awesome, and it has been for 2 years now, but they've even cranked it up a little bit this year, I think. This is a defensive football team that just happens to have an all-world 3-time MVP quarterback, or however many times he's won it. Mahomes isn't even playing that well. Like, he's fine. Like, he's doing his thing. He's making clutch plays. He's doing enough for them to win for sure, but he's not playing at an MVP level or anywhere close so far this year. But they're winning games because their defense is that good. And I don't see that going away. It's amazing to me how they've reshaped their team in the middle of a dynasty from this team. A few years ago, if Patrick Mahomes would have thrown for, what did he was like 142 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 44 passer rating against the 49ers. A few years ago, that would have gotten the Chiefs beaten like 42-7, right? But now they go on the road to beat a talented San Francisco team by 10 on the road. As crazy as it is to say about an all-time great quarterback, he's not really driving the bus right now. It's the defense. And so how do you beat this Chiefs team if they have a top 2 or 3 defense in the league, maybe the best defense in the league, and also Patrick Mahomes, who is just impossible to beat in the playoffs? It's getting harder to even at this point in the season to figure out a way anybody beats the Kansas City Chiefs for a Super Bowl this year. It's just, I know nobody wants to hear that, but how do you beat them? If the defense is going to be this good, they're just about unbeatable.
Frank, any truth at all, do you think, to these sudden Matthew Stafford trade rumors that are floating around?
I don't buy it. I don't see why that would, we'll see. You can tell that, look, Stafford might not be back next year just because, the way he structured his contract to kind of be a year-by-year thing. But, no, I don't really see Stafford going anywhere. But who knows? I mean, crazy things happen in the NFL. We've seen some pretty wild trades already. But, no, I don't buy into that right now.
It's Frank Schwab here on the Rip City Drive. What does the Deshaun Watson injury mean for the Browns?
I mean, oh boy, it is so tough. It is so tough. And my colleague Charles Robinson wrote a long piece about how much do the Browns insure his contract for salary-wise. We might not find that out for a while. That could help them with the cap next year. But it still went from being the most complicated situation in the NFL to being even more complicated somehow. It's because now you don't just have a guy whose contract is the worst in NFL history. Now you have a guy with the worst contract in NFL history who's not even going to be healthy next year. It probably won't be by week 1. If he's back, it's going to take some time for him to knock off the rust. And what's he knocking off the rust to be? He was terrible before the injury. Like, okay, so it takes you a month to knock off the rust so you can be the worst quarterback in football? Like, it's just terrible for the Browns. I feel for their fans who didn't sign up for this nonsense. They built in a way which was actually pretty smart when you go back and look at it, that they said, we're not going to worry about for a few years. We're kind of going to trust the process, 76ers style, right? They had all that cap room. They had all the draft picks, and they built a good roster. They had a deep, good, star-filled roster, and then they absolutely positively blew it at the quarterback position. It's just so disheartening that you could make the worst trade in NFL history and give that guy the worst contract in NFL history all in one move and set your franchise back for years. Because once they do figure out, okay, we just have to rip off the Band-Aid, whatever it's going to be with Deshaun Watson, 9-figure cap hit, whatever that is, boy, that sets you back a couple of years, and that just stinks for Browns and their fans.
Frank, I watch the Lions a lot. I enjoy watching them, I admit it. And I'm wondering, I look at those odds on NFL MVP. Jared Goff doesn't seem to be very high on a lot of people's lists, and I don't get that. I think he's having a terrific year. You think he's got a shot at that award?
Oh, I definitely do. I mean, I've been talking about it. You can go back. I was talking about it this summer that he was my pick for a very simple reason. If you are the quarterback of a number 1 seed, you have a 50-50 shot. That's just the formula now. It's the last, I believe, 6 years, the number 1 seed quarterback has gotten the award. 12 of the last 15 years, it's been a number 1 seed quarterback. And the Lions, I think, are going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC, especially with the 49ers issues. Nobody in the East is really impressing me that much. I believe the Lions are going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. So you're basically giving me a coin flip chance with Jared Goff. And, yeah, I get, like, Lamar, if they're a number 1 seed and they're a really, really good football team, he might get it again. But you wonder, do voters want to do something different? So you look at the situation and you say, which boxes does he check? He's going to have the numbers. We're already seeing him put up the numbers. It's a great story. I think voters like that too. I think the Lions are going to be a number 1 seed, which gives them a 50-50 shot against the AFC number 1 seed. I think he's got a real shot to win MVP this year. I do. And he's playing at a great level. Like, it's not just everybody wants to say, oh, it's Ben Johnson and play calling, and that's true. I saw some stat. I wish I could credit it because I don't know where I saw it. He was pressured on like 53% of his dropbacks against the Vikings, and he still completed 22 of 25 passes. And he had a 140 passer rating. Like, wow. He's playing out of his mind right now, and I don't see that really stopping because I think this Lions offense is not going anywhere. It's a really, really good offense. Goff's going to put up the numbers to have him in that MVP talk.
One final question for you, going back to the game last night. I don't know what the rule of thumb here is in the NFL for when you pull guys out, but does Todd Bowles deserve some of the blame for the Godwin injury?
Yeah, I think some. I think it's these guys, they just have this mentality, and they got to get out of this mentality of, oh, I don't want my team thinking we quit. Well, maybe your team shouldn't have gotten down 41-16 or whatever it was. You probably should quit. You had, I mean, by win probability, less than 1% chance to win that game. But, I mean, the counterpoints are, well, what are you going to do? You just going to take knees? Are you going to pull all your starters? So I kind of see both sides of it. I think Bulls kind of screwed this up, yes. But that's just, NFL teams, how they do it. Like, they don't like garbage time. For years I've complained about, I just don't think they're wired that way. You see guys all the time. I remember Thursday Night Football, Dolphins-Bills, the game that's kind of infamous for Tua's concussion. Devon Achane is in the game late in the fourth quarter getting pounded, and I'm like, you guys are down by 31 points. What are you doing? But coaches just don't think of this stuff. They're just, hey, let's move the ball downfield. And they gotta kind of get out of that mindset, because then things happen like Chris Godwin injury that ruins their season. And what was it worth? So you could chase a less than 1% chance to win that ball game? I don't know. I do blame Bowles a little bit here. I get where he's coming from, but yeah, it wasn't the best decision for Todd Bowles.
All right, you can follow him on X at Yahoo Schwab. He's from Yahoo Sports, and he's terrific. Frank, we appreciate the time, man. Thanks for making it for us, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
All right, Frank Schwab. Well, I tell you what's going to be fun, Godfather. Look, I'm with Frank. Like, I know the Chiefs. I wouldn't bet against them in the postseason.
Yeah.
But I do think the Ravens, considering that they maybe have learned from last year's mistake of trying to get outside of what they do best, Derrick Henry could influence that quite a bit in terms of, hey, we've got the perfect formula now. We've got the unstoppable force in Henry. We've got Lamar Jackson. But let's lean on our identity, which is running the football. And then we can use the play action. Lamar's passing the ball well. And then when things break down, we can, turn to his athleticism, his Superman capabilities. But the Ravens, this much I do know, they're good enough to win a championship right now. They are. The question is, will they put the pieces together come postseason time? Because I feel like it's inevitable that the Ravens and Chiefs are going to meet again down the road. Like we saw them on opening night, but they almost feel destined to meet in the postseason, just like last year.
There's no doubt Lamar Jackson, I'm sorry, he's better this year in that Moncton system where he's, I think, more comfortable and finding his open receivers and delivering the ball, frankly. I mean, he's looked pretty good on deep balls this year, which has surprised me. Look how far that guy's come in his career. Because in the beginning, he was brutal throwing the football down the field.
Yeah, he's awesome. So I think the Ravens are legit. Love their offensive attack. And Derrick Henry is he's like one of those ageless wonders. The size and the power, and yet the speed to get down the sideline and take one to the house. He's a freak, man. I haven't seen too many guys like him in the NFL in my lifetime. He's unique. He's like Earl Campbell-ish with the power. But great speed, takes good care of his body. The Ravens are very impressive to me, and I love their head coach, John Harbaugh. So the Ravens are good. I put the Lions right up there. Like those three teams feel like the three teams right now. Detroit,
sure
Baltimore, Kansas City. And Minnesota's not too far behind. They're pretty legit too.
Yeah.
But Detroit is legit, and I do think Jared Goff, like right now today, if the season were to end abruptly, I would vote for Goff as MVP.
Yeah.
Just based on the way he's playing and
Well, I would too.
the way he's delivering the football, leading that team. I still want to know why McVay hated him so much. Why? What was up with that?
I don't know.
Because he
That
looks
is
pretty
strange.
darn good right now.
But Goff has a great chance, too, because I think the other two candidates are on the same team. You got Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. They could possibly split the votes unless somebody gets together and decide, no, we're going to give all our votes to this guy. And it could be there's some MVP fatigue against Lamar Jackson. We see that in the NBA all the time, where it's almost impossible to win it 3 years in a row, let alone 3 times overall.
Yeah, Detroit, they feel like they're on a mission this year, meaning I think they're focused on getting the number 1 seed and making sure that if you're going to get to the Super Bowl, you got to come through the Dome. And if they get that bye week and play on that turf and that building with their speed and their playmakers,
And their crowd.
good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. That's all I got to say about that. And that goes for everyone in the NFC. They don't want to go through there to have to get to the Super Bowl because that's not going to end well for them. And Dan Campbell's coaching his ass off.
I didn't know until I heard it today. I didn't know he was the Sean Payton guy.
Yeah, they're connected.
He worked a long time for Sean Payton. I did not know that. I wasn't up to speed on that.
That was why last year when the Broncos played in Detroit towards the end of the year, like listening to those two guys, normally when coach speak, they shine up the other guy and you know it's a bunch of lies. But those two guys truly love each other. A lot of respect right there. And I'm sure Sean Payton, being the competitive maniac that he is, probably hated getting his face kicked in by Dan Campbell. But they have a lot of respect for one another.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And Dan Campbell, to his credit, he went to a place that's been, well, let's put it this way. The front office in Detroit's not had the best reputation over the years. He's turned around a franchise that had been a doormat for years and years.
No question. No question.
That's impressive.
They did it without biting people on the leg, too, which he kind of promised in his first press conference.
I wouldn't mind seeing people bite each other's ankles, so that would be fun.
Yeah.
All right, we'll come back. We got to hear from John Harbaugh, not Jim. John shared some thoughts.
Yes, he did.
He messed up, but I knew where he was going with it.
He reminded me of his brother.
And anytime we can inject Jerry into the show, we're going to do it. Jera, sharing thoughts on Derrick Henry.
Yes.
You got the Rip City Drive. Yeah, Scotty Bethune is a Raven fan. He's like, hey, Chad, there's room for you. Jump on the Raven bandwagon. I'm not jumping on any Raven bandwagon. I just love Lamar Jackson, and I respect their head coach. I'm not a Ravens fan, but, hey, man, ball don't lie. I respect the way they play.
Yeah.
Some franchises are just ones you tip the cap to and say, I like the way they operate.
Right.
The Ravens would be one. The Ravens are one of the best-run franchises in the NFL, and the Browns are arguably the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And I respect franchises that do things the right way. The Browns are a complete mess. And it's awesome that this Deshaun Watson thing blew up in their face. We all knew when they signed the deal with $230 fully guaranteed $1 million to Deshaun, it was a bad idea.
Yeah.
It just turned out to be even worse than we thought, and that's really bad. What a mess. And I don't like seeing Deshaun Watson get hurt. I think it's awful. But whether he got hurt or not, they were screwed.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're talking about on-field product, the rest of this year,
They're going to be better now.
it was a break for that franchise to have him get hurt. No offense to anybody,
Yeah.
but whoever they put out there is going to be better than he's been playing.
What they need to do is just lose as many games as possible, draft Shador, one of the top quarterbacks, and then they're just going to have to wait it out for a couple of years until they're in a position to start having money when that contract comes off the books and they can build around their new quarterback. But the blessing in disguise is that they're going to be terrible and you're going to be able to draft a quarterback out of that. That's the beauty in it. And that's what I'd be focused on if I was a Browns fan. Thank God I am not. One of the most tortured fan bases in all football.
No, it's been a mess for a long time.
All right. Let's take a listen to John Harbaugh. He was asked about how special it is to play on Monday Night Football and how great Lamar's been on Monday Night Football. And that led him to talk about the younger days of him growing up watching personalities on Monday Night Football.
He was reminiscing a bit about the good old days.
All right. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
For me, it was Dandy Don Drysdale.
Dandy Don Drysdale. I didn't realize the old Dodgers ace was a Monday Night Football personality.
No, did he bring Sandy Koufax on with him? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Dandy Don Drysdale.
Dandy Don Drysdale.
For me, it was Dandy Don Drysdale, Howard Cosell. You know, it was Gifford, Frank Gifford, right? I mean, it was those guys. It was just it was incredible. That was it, man. I mean, when we got to stay up, we got a little older when we finally got a chance. We could stay up late enough to watch it. Then the highlights, man. I go back to Chris Berman, right, to Swami, who's still doing it at the highest level. But you didn't see all those highlights like you do now. So those highlights would come on. That was when you got a chance to see what the games look like, and he'd go through there and be making all the noises that he makes, and the noise he can make. So it's cool to be in these games. It's an honor. You're grateful. I told the guys, man, it was going to be an honor to take the field on Monday Night Football, in Tampa Bay against a great Tampa Bay Buck football team on Monday night. It's going to be an honor to do that. Let's cherish that, man, and let's try to do our best. And see if we can put our best foot forward.
All right, so I give him a pass on the Dandy Don Drysdale reference. He meant Dandy Don Meredith, who was one of the all-time greats.
Yeah,
but I know from doing radio all the time is that sports characters get mixed up in my mind, and I start calling one guy this guy, and especially when they got the same first name, it can be very confusing for me. But
he also seemed to sound like he thought that Chris Berman did the halftime highlights on.
He used to on Monday Night Football. He used to do the fastest 3 minutes where he would do the halftime highlights.
But that's not the traditional Monday Night Football.
Well, I know
Howard
that.
did them.
Well, yes, and he referenced Howard doing the halftime highlights because he was talking about the day and time at which Howard did it. They didn't have highlights. The place where you went to get highlights was Monday Night Football with Howard because they didn't have highlights where you could watch of the other NFL games. And I know from talking to my buddy Steve that Monday Night Football was a place where he went not just to watch the game, but he wanted to see Howard's halftime highlights so he knew what else was going on around the league.
Howard's halftime highlights were unique. The way he delivered them, the way he talked. Berman did a copy of that, like, he could go all the way. That was Howard. And Berman stole that. That was Howard.
He didn't steal it. No, Berman didn't steal it. What Berman did was his own version. I know you don't like Berman, so I respect that.
That's correct.
But I love Berman. He's one of my favorites because I grew up with him. But Berman, what he did is that he would take sayings from other people that he grew up listening, and he would inject that into what he did to show homage and pay respect to those guys.
But he never credited them while he was doing that, and everybody thought it was his, like, back.
That's not true.
That's stolen from Red Barber.
That's not true. That's not true. You're throwing Berman under the bus because you don't like him. I love both guys. I love Howard, and I love Berman. I grew up with Berman.
I don't like Berman because that's what he did.
He wasn't stealing from Howard.
Sure he was.
No, he was.
He stole from Red Barber. Back. Whoa, doctor.
He was paying homage
That was
to
the
those
Joe
guys.
DiMaggio catch by Al Gianfrido.
Oh, my gosh. Your hatred for Berman makes my stomach turn.
Do some research on Berman. You'll hate him, too.
Well, if I did research on half the guys that I have grown up admiring in sports, I would probably find issue
just
with
go
them.
look up You're With Me Leather. That's all you need to look up.
I'm well aware of Berman's past.
Okay.
It doesn't change the fact that he's a great broadcaster. He's terrific. I love Berman. I know you don't like him. I'm down. Here's Jerry Jones talking about Derrick Henry. The Cowboys made a play on him, and Henry's having a career year. And, well, here's Jerry talking about Derrick Henry. It sounds like he might be pained a bit that he doesn't have access to him.
In my mind, we're not playing.
And wait a second. Why does a billionaire sound like he's talking to a tin can?
Yeah, that's a good question.
You would think that Jerry Jones would have, like, a better connection than what he's working with right
he's
there.
working on a flip phone, probably.
Come on, Jerry.
In my mind, we're not playing very good football right now at all. And it's beyond whether or not we have Derrick Henry or not. Derrick Henry is having a career year. I don't know if he'd be having that career year in our situation. And that's really something you really do have to look at, because if he had not had as many carries as our running backs have had, then he certainly probably wouldn't have attained the level of impact he's having. And then he's a real good complement to the type of offense they run. We don't run that type of offense at all.
Well, he's right about one thing, Godfather. If he were with the Cowboys, Henry would be having a bad year because they've been trailing in the majority of their games. He wouldn't have had a chance to run. I don't know whose decision it was ultimately, if it was Derek who pursued the Ravens, if it was an agent, but whoever convinced him that he should go there, it is, I believe, the perfect marriage between running back, quarterback, and offensive system.
Yeah, and the bottom line for me, with Henry going to the Cowboys, would they be a better team if they had him? Yeah, they would. That's all I would say. And he can talk all they want about how they're not a very good football team and he wouldn't be good. All that makes sense. I understand all that, but I think they would have been a better team with him.
Well, the problem is their defense is giving up yards and points at an alarming rate. And when you get behind, you don't get a chance to run the football as much. So,
but if you could run it better, the offense of the other team wouldn't get the ball as much.
Yeah. But I don't know. They're so bad, I don't know. I mean, Henry makes every team better. I just don't know if it would make a remarkable difference for the Cowboys because they really stink right now. Like, really bad. Offensive line's not good. Quarterback's not playing great. Defense stinks to high heaven. The Cowboys are a legitimate mess right now.
Yeah, they are. There's no question about that. They've had a lot of injuries, too.
The Cowboys. And yet here we are talking about them. They're just an average football team, and they continue to get love.
Don't they play? Do they play the 49ers coming? That's
another
what I
loss.
thought.
Yeah.
Now we'll find out if they are bad or not, or how bad the Niners are right now.
We're going to find out how bad both teams are. Not how good they are, how bad.
Yeah.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. We'll get to coming up next. We want to focus in a little bit on your Portland Trailblazers. We're going to start it with Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, your chance to win. And we're going to talk about that projected starting lineup for tomorrow that I think will include Tamani Kamara, not Scoot Henderson. All right, this is our weekly disclaimer that Dwight and I care about people.
Yes.
We're here for you, and we want to take care of you, and so do the Portland Trailblazers. And today is a Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, which means we have goodies for you. We have tickets that we're going to give away. We have a pair right now, and we also have a pair coming up at 5:20. Both pairs are going to be for the game coming up on November 1st at Moda Center with the Trailblazers and Thunder, and that game is going to tip off at 7 o'clock. And remember, you got to listen to us each and every Tuesday throughout the entire season for your chance to win Trailblazer tickets here on Trailblazers Ticket Tuesday. Now, I do know that if you need Trailblazer tickets, just simply go to trailblazers.com. There are still tickets available for the opener tomorrow. Golden State is going to be in town along with Steph Curry and company, so it'd be a great time for you to head out to Moda Center. For any Trailblazer ticket needs, go to trailblazers.com. This will be for the game coming up on November 1st. The Thunder will be in town, and we'll make this simple for you. Caller 7 right now, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Call now, fire away, and the person that calls in, the 7th caller, gets a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Thunder. And Godfather, this could be a good game because you and I have pegged, like most people, the Thunder are one of the best teams in the Western Conference.
Absolutely. No question.
Great coaching, great young roster, MVP candidate, Chet Holmgren.
Yep.
So we got a Northwest connection. They basically have just about everything you want. The additions of Caruso, the Hartenstein injury, man, that's brutal.
Yeah, but they're a fun style to watch play, too. They'll pressure you defensively. They'll run up and down the floor a little bit. Fun team to watch.
Call now, 503-248-0620. We want to hear from a Trailblazer fan.
From where?
Show me your Blazer. I'm going to save it. We're too early in the season. I don't want to lose my voice.
Okay.
Banks!
There you go. Thanks.
Tillamook, are you at the factory? Call now.
Cheese balls.
Sido! All right, 503-248-0620. Shacker will get your information, and you can take part in the Trailblazers and Thunder, and we'll have another pair of tickets to give away coming up at 5:20. Joining us here in 20 minutes, Sunny Ray from our office. The sweet Sunny is going to join us in studio and talk about her marathon journey. I've done a lot of crazy things in terms of physical activity, Godfather. I can guarantee you between now and the day I die, I will not be running a marathon. Like, there's nothing about running a marathon that's been appealing to me. I've ridden my bike in a couple of long, extended rides. That was somewhat fun and enjoyable, but very painful. I've just never had a desire to run a marathon, ever. And I know runners, a lot of runners out here. That's just not my thing. Running is not my deal. I prefer to strength train and focus on those things, but running, like, no. So I respect people that do it.
You get your money's worth on the strength training. I don't think you need to do any of that kind of high pressure.
I don't want the high impact on my body.
It's not only the running the marathon, it's all the training leading up to it. I can't imagine.
Oh, my goodness. All right, so Sunny Ray's going to come in. Very inspiring story, and I just respect people that set their sights on something and then go through the process to get there and accomplish it. And so we'll talk with her coming up in 20 minutes. All right, I want to talk about this starting lineup for the Portland Trailblazers. I do believe that the lineup that we saw on Friday, except for Klingon. Klingon got the start on Friday in that preseason finale because Ayton was out for rest. I think the starting lineup is going to be Ant, Tamani Kamara, Ayton, Jeremy Grant, and Denny Avdia, which means Scoot Henderson's going to come off the bench like he did on Friday. And I just want your take on that. You know, I respect Chauncey Billups because he told us on media day, and we both were like, wait, what? That the players would determine the minutes and the lineup, that he was going to turn them loose, and the guys that performed would be rewarded accordingly. And Tamani Kamara, based on everyone that you talked to, I think there's a consensus that he's been as good as any Trailblazer in the team throughout the course of camp and the preseason. And there's no doubt that having him in the backcourt, it does a couple things for you. One, it adds to their newfound length, which is ridiculous between him, Ayton, Avdia, Grant, like length. You protect Ant in the backcourt because Tamani's a great defender, and it allows Ant to be in the best position to succeed because he'll handle the rock and be the point guard. And we both agree that Ant and Scoot are both better with the ball in their hands. So I feel like Chauncey's putting the five out there on the floor that he has available to right now that gives him the best chance to win. and that's
Yeah.
why Scoot will come off the bench. That's just how I see it. What's your take on what's going on here?
Well, I don't disagree with anything you said. It's probably right now their best lineup. What I would say is the long-term implications of this and I don't know if it's fair to say a benching of Scoot Henderson, but it is kind of. He finished off the last half of last season starting at the point and actually improving his play. Still not up to what you'd like to see, but better in the second half than the first half. And so now you're going to send him to the bench and not start him from day one. The implications of that. I'm sure they're not going to say they're giving up on him, which I don't think they are. But what's it going to do to him? I think he probably sees himself as a starting point guard. He's got a lot of goals for this season. I think it also, you take a guy you picked third in the draft just a year ago, and now he's not a starter. How does that look? If you wanted to deal him, I guess if you want to deal him, maybe it'd be better that he doesn't play than he plays sometimes. But I think it's an interesting situation, Chad, moving forward, just to see the impact of it.
Well, I guess here's what I'm wondering. Let's say that Shaden Sharp did not get hurt. Don't you kind of get the sense that it would probably be Ant and Shaden who would be your starting backcourt tonight instead of Ant and Tamani?
Well, I would think that, other than the fact that Joe Cronin is on record as saying they really do need more data on the young players to see, and I would think you'd want to see Sharp and Henderson playing together as much as possible because theoretically, at least, this is your future backcourt.
Okay, so let's say things go well with Ant and Tamani in the backcourt. Here in the next couple of weeks, Shaden's going to be back. They're just going to bring Ant and Shaden off the bench together and have them be the two guards off in that second lineup?
Well, that would be a possibility. You could do that.
How would that work, bringing those guys off the bench to play together so you get a look together of your young backcourt?
Well, yeah, you could. It's almost like platooning in the backcourt. You could do that. The problem would be very often they wouldn't be playing against the best of the other team. They'd be playing against reserves quite often, which that's fine, especially in the beginning. If you're kind of breaking them in slowly, maybe that's okay.
See, I don't know what the answer is here, to be honest with you.
I don't either, Chad.
And the reason why I say that is I agree with Chauncey that the lineup he's going to put out there with Ant and Tamani, that gives him the best chance to win. I also don't believe that Scoot Henderson right now is their best option in the starting lineup based on the players that they have. But then I'm trying to marry that knowledge with the reality that you have a player that you picked number 3 overall that you need to put on the floor to give time to develop. Is that better to do it as a starter? Is he better suited coming off the bench as he starts this process of development? I don't know what the answer is there. Are you slowing his development by bringing him off the bench? Is it going to help him in the long run because he'll be in a better position to succeed and develop more confidence? Like, I honestly don't know what the answer is there. But I do know that he hasn't made a case that where he stands out and he's saying, yeah, I should definitely start. Like, he hasn't done that. His play has not separated him from everyone else. So I don't know what the answer is there.
Yeah, I don't either. This was not a good year in that regard.
Do you just play young guys? Like, do some teams just play the young guy, whether they deserve it or not, just to develop them?
Yeah. Well, and that happens. I mean, look how much Scoot played last year. He certainly, played more than his ability dictated he play.
That's true.
But you have, it's like playing your quarterback in the NFL. Does Bo Nix, he's the best quarterback they have, but he's certainly, not going to give you a great chance to win. You're going to live through his learning process.
Yeah. And maybe maybe if they put Jared Stidham in, Jared Stidham right now might give them a better chance. He might. But they're committed to the young guy.
You can bet Jared Stidham's sitting there thinking that.
But the separation between Ant and Scoot right now is, they're nowhere near the same player.
Sure. Now, the other thing you got to think about Ant is he's going to be having a contract. He'd be having a contract coming up soon, too. And so if you decide that you'd rather keep him than one of the young guards, then you got to think about your payroll because he's going to need a bigger contract next time around.
Yeah, that's interesting. Ooh. Yeah, I don't know. But these are the issues we knew they were going to be faced with before the year began because they're loaded up at many different positions. So maybe it's a case of it doesn't matter who starts the year. You know, Chauncey's going to put out the best players who are most deserving, but you know that the lineup will change as the season moves along because you would expect trades to happen.
Yeah. It's just that most players will tell you, does it matter who starts? Because you always hear, doesn't matter who starts, that's who finishes. It matters. You know that. I mean,
it matters. And maybe,
definitely
too, it matters to the locker room. You know, they're at practice. We're not at practice, right?
Right.
Maybe Chauncey's going with the guys that everyone on the team knows deserves to be the starter.
Sure.
And I think there is something to that where if a guy's outperforming everyone else and you don't put him in the starting lineup, it's like, wait, you said that well, he earned it. Tamani earned it. You're not putting him out there. What's up with that?
Well, that's why you shouldn't say that. You know, really.
Yeah.
Because very often on a team, there's a guy starting who, for whatever reason, maybe shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You know, and there are other reasons, you know, payroll, things like that. But, I mean, if you go out and give a guy a huge contract, he's probably going to start.
Yeah.
That's the way it works.
Yeah. Let's go out to North Portland, Mike. He's got some thoughts on the Trailblazers. Mike, welcome to the show, my friend. What's on your mind?
Chad, you touched on it briefly, but I think this is the start of poker. The roster at the beginning of the season, at the end of this season, they keep saying they're going to try for another high draft pick this year, which you can do, but I don't think this roster, if you have all these vets that you got today and they stay healthy and you play these vets, that's nearly a playoff team in my opinion. If you can run vets like Ant, Denny, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton, and scoot off the bench, Shaedon Sharpe gets healthy, that's not a bad team. So I think what's going to happen is you're showing your best players that you want to maybe see what you got, maybe see what trade value they have to the rest of the league, kind of an audition. And I think towards the end of the year, it'll be more draft assets or maybe one or two more young pieces to go with a high draft pick. So I think it's poker. I think this is the start of the game right here. You know, we just been dealt, what are we playing, 5-card stud? And they're putting this lineup out here to just kind of see which GM's eyebrows are going to raise by the trade deadline. That's my take on it.
Well, that's a darn good phone call, Mike. I appreciate that. I agree with his assessment there that the lineup and the players we see today, this team or the composition of the roster is probably going to be a lot different as we near the midpoint of the season.
Right. I agree with that. Yeah. I do not agree that this is a playoff team with those veterans playing. It's a team that's going to win a lot more games than it would without those veterans.
Look, I don't know what they are exactly. If everyone's healthy and they have all the same players throughout the course of the year, I just know that they're going to win more games than you want to win.
Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah.
For sure. So then you have to really check yourself. Because that is still, in my opinion, just my opinion, that's the most important thing of this year.
Cooper
is
Flagg.
You get in the bottom three. Yeah, not only Cooper Flagg, but the other guys that are there. I keep hearing about these other guys, too.
I know, but I want the next Larry Bird.
Yeah, I know. I know you do. Oh, everybody
I'm all about
does.
the white guy in the NBA now, the renaissance of the white man. I want Cooper Flagg badly because then I can live vicariously through him and remember the days of watching Larry Bird, my happy days. Yeah. Hopefully the roster will be different as the season moves along for them to get to where you were just talking about.
Yeah, the other thing I don't necessarily agree with is showcasing these veteran guys. Everybody in the league knows these guys by now. The only guy you might want to showcase is Scoot because he hasn't played enough and hasn't played well enough that you might be able to get something for him. But very often, that second team for a guy who was an early first pick, he turns out pretty well with the second team.
Do teams need to see Robert Williams to know that he's healthy?
They have to see that he's healthy.
Okay.
That's all they need.
But they
Chad.
know what he is as a player.
They know what he is as a
so
player.
you know what Jeremy is, you know what Ant is, you know what Robert Williams and Tease.
That's right.
Okay.
Even Avia, I think people are pretty comfortable assessing him too. They know he's a good player.
All right, coming up at 5:20 after we give away another Trailblazer ticket pack because we care about people, we're going to get into what the main objectives for this season are. We'll talk about that at 5:20. Sunny Ray talking about her marathon journeys coming up next. I think you'll enjoy the story. All right, Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad, and I'm pretty excited about this, Godfather, because we've known this person for quite some time.
Yeah.
She works in the same office that we do.
And she actually shows up in the office quite a bit.
She does. She's one of the few that comes into the office every day. And I respect her a great deal because, one, she works her ass off at her job. She works in sales. And for those of you who know, and there are a lot of people out there who work in sales listening to the show, especially radio sales, like you got to grind. You got to get after it if you want to make things happen and make some money. So I respect that. But also, great wife and a wonderful mom. And she's got boys that she cares a lot about who are in school and college. And so you can just see all the different things that she does. But I also have a passion for people that pursue exercise and activity because I've done so many different things like that in my life. And you've known a lot of people like your wife, Nancy. She's a fanatic about exercise and activity, Godfather.
Yes, she is.
Well, Sunny Ray is in studio right now, and she just completed the Chicago Marathon, which is awesome. And Sunny, thanks for coming in.
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right. You inspire me with your story and the things you've done. So I want to talk about it. And I think a lot of people will be able to connect with this. But I guess let's start with this. What was the origin or what got you started with running, which has now led you to run multiple marathons?
Well, it was the community that I met. I actually started going to Orange Theory back during COVID, or actually before COVID. And then I met some really cool, inspirational people. It was great because I surrounded myself around women that were super inspirational. And one of them has now become like one of my best friends, and she inspired me to start running. And I saw her run Boston Marathon, and that's where I told myself, I'm running a marathon.
That's awesome. So how did you feel after the half marathon down in Boring? Like, what was your immediate reaction after you finished it? Because I would guess going in, you didn't know if you'd be able to complete a half marathon. So you did it. What was the immediate sensation, feeling, and thoughts like when you completed it?
Tears. Like I was shaking. I was crying. I was overwhelmed. It was really cool because, you know, you push yourself to do something and you can't believe you've done it. So I set myself a goal that whole summer. We would meet every Sunday and we trained and we did long runs. I think the longest I ran was up to like 10 miles and then the rest was a mental game. So it was great.
So 10 miles is the most you ran before you ran 26 miles?
No, before I ran a half marathon. So
Oh, okay.
13.
Because I know Orange Theory to begin with, that's not an easy workout. That's
It definitely
brutal.
isn't. No, it's actually a lot of fun. It's more HIIT. It's circuits. You start off on the tread or the rower or the weight floor, and then you transition. So I started off on the treadmills, and a lot of speed running on the treadmills, and that's kind of how I started my running journey.
All right. We're talking to Sunny Ray right now, who works in the office, and we're talking about her marathon journey. So you complete the half marathon. How long did it take you coming out of that before you set the goal that I want to do a marathon? Was it immediate, or did it take a few days or a couple of weeks? What about that process?
No, then it was like, okay, I want to sign up for another half.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm going to do more halves. I'm going to do 12 half marathons in, 2022. So I did another half marathon, and I did the Rock and Roll in Arizona.
Wow.
And then in February, I did another one. And in March, I did another one. And I just kind of kept traveling and started doing more half marathons.
And did it become easier or more challenging with each half marathon you did?
Everyone was different, and every race is completely different. It depends on how you prep. It depends on the night before. It depends on how you feel that day. My favorite one was probably the Rock and Roll half marathon in Arizona, in Tempe. I beat my first half marathon time, so that was a great PR. And then I actually even went to Canada and I did the BMO there, and that was really fun. I ran with my niece. So it's just kind of become an activity for me where I can involve family and friends.
Yeah. And a great way to connect with people.
It really is. The running community is super amazing.
All right. So you run through a bunch of half marathons and then you decide it's time to run a marathon. How did that process come to be? And was your first one here in Portland?
No, actually.
Oh.
So I surprised one of my best friends. Her name's Linda. And she got accepted to run the Boston Marathon, which is a big deal because it's one of the 6 majors. And
you can't just sign up and become a member in the Boston Marathon, can you?
No, she actually qualified.
Wow.
And I just remember her calling me and she was in tears saying, I made it. I can't believe I made it. And I decided to surprise her with her sister-in-law, Mary. And we're like, we're going to Boston. So we surprised her.
You went to watch?
Yeah, we went to go watch.
Oh, sweet.
And mile 13 is where we met her. It was so inspirational to see all sorts of different walks of life out there running. And that's where I was like, I'm running one. I'm running one next year and I'm doing it. So I applied for my first marathon, and that was the Eugene Marathon. Go Ducks. And that was because my son Jaden was going to be a freshman there. And I wanted to set a goal to show my boys that you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it. And finishing on Hayward was a dream for me.
Wow, you finished at Hayward.
I did.
Legendary.
So awesome.
Unbelievable. How did you feel after finishing your first marathon? I mean, I know people who've run one and said, that was great that I did it, but I'm never doing another one.
I was all smiles. I had my best friends there. I had people from Orange Theory that was there to cheer me on. I had my husband there supporting me. My kids were there and watching. They got to see me finish. It was really cool. Brings tears to my eyes. It gets me really emotional because there's no feeling like that.
Did you hit a wall?
On that one I didn't.
Wow. You just zipped
I just
right
kept
through.
cruising. My music list was good. I had a really good a friend from Orange Theory. Her name's Carrie. And she decided to sign up and just run 13 miles with me. And I was like, well, I'm not sure if I want anybody running with me.
Yeah.
And she goes, I won't talk to you. I go, don't talk to me. I don't want anybody talking to me. And I had my headphones and she just ran with me. It was another body there. And if I needed a gel, she was there. So she finished the last 13 miles with me. And then I met this guy who I met at the Nike store in Eugene. And he was talking about running his first marathon. And he ended up meeting me, I think, at like mile 9, but we never talked. We never acknowledged each other. He just ran right beside me
Awesome.
and ran the entire race with me, but we never said a word.
But it's nice you knew he was there, though. And that's got to make a difference.
Yeah, and he actually, at the end, gave me a big hug and was like, I just want to thank you because you really pushed me. Because he just kept seeing me, like, look at him. And I was like, we got this. Don't give up. So I didn't really hit a wall. I mean, mile 24, I was so thirsty. I was just quenching water.
Yeah.
And then I knew I had 2 more miles. And then you just hear the crowd roaring. And then you could just feeling yourself coming around Hayward and going on there. And then it's like,
You got this.
I totally had it.
It's amazing.
It's so fun.
what was your time on your first one?
I did a sub 5.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so I was 4:58:59.
Wow.
That's excellent.
That is good.
Is that better than what you thought you would do?
I just wanted to finish.
Okay.
I didn't have a goal. My goal was just to finish, no time expectation.
But that was nice. It probably took pressure off of you. You're just like, I'm just going to do whatever it takes to finish
it did,
this run.
But I really prepared, like really hard for it. I strength trained. I actually went and I don't know if you guys have heard of Restore, but I did like cryotherapy there. I did IV therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of compressions. And I didn't have a life. I didn't really hang out with my friends. I came to work super early and I worked late and then I trained after that. And on the weekends, I didn't really go anywhere.
See, I love that because I found in life that the things I appreciate the most are the ones that I had to sacrifice the most for.
Yeah.
Just like you.
It made it really worthwhile. It was really, really cool.
That's great. Sunny Ray is here in studio talking about her marathon experience. So after that, what was the second marathon that you ran?
So then I was crazy and I was like, gosh, I was talking to somebody who lives in LA.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my gosh, have you ever run the LA Marathon? I'm like, no. And then they're like, we start at Dodger Stadium. And I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I signed up for the LA Marathon probably in August. And the race was in March of last year. I believe it was March or April or this year. So I trained during the wintertime. It wasn't my best training. It was a really difficult race. I didn't really study the course and I kind of flopped. But I finished. that race was really special because I had my mom there and my sister.
Nice.
And then we started at Dodger Stadium, and I actually ran with one of our coworkers from iHeart in Burbank.
That's awesome.
And I ended up seeing Dave at our hotel, and I'm like, "Hey, I know you." And he looked at me, and we're like, "Oh my God!" He actually ran as well, so we ran the first 9 miles together. And then it was a tough race. It was warm that day. I don't think I prepared as much as I did for Eugene. So
Were there air quality issues down there?
no,
Oh, because I would have worried about smog a little bit.
it was like creepy, crawly, like rolling hills that I just didn't prepare for.
Yeah.
Or Eugene was super flat, and that's why I also wanted to do it because it was super flat.
Wow. So you felt the impact of that then.
I did, but what got me through my finish line was when my youngest son, Jeevan, ended up meeting me at mile 24
And
or
encouraged you.
25 and said, "Mom, you got this. You're finishing." And he ran with me for almost half a mile.
Awesome.
And then I finished. It wasn't the best time, but I finished.
Yeah, but there's something to be said about going through a struggle and still finding a way to get the job done and finish. That's important.
And he saw me struggle. Like that was a tough one.
All right. Your most recent was Chicago.
Yes.
That's
My
awesome.
favorite. That was like my favorite. I'm still on a runner's high.
That's great. It was recent. It was the same weekend as the Buckeyes, Ohio State, Oregon.
Yes, that is why my boys didn't join me because
They're at the game.
They were at the game.
Yeah. How'd you get into that? Because I'm guessing like Boston, you got to qualify for that. How'd you get in?
So I actually applied via lottery, didn't make it. And I was talking to a fellow coworker of ours from the Chicago iHeart office, and her name's Robin, and she is a big marathoner and told me, go the charity route. You're going to love it. Just do it. So I did. I went the charity route, and I had to apply for it, and they do a little interview, and I got in. So I ran for the American Liver Foundation, which was amazing. I met so many cool people. Learned a lot about like why they were running, what my cause was, why I was running. I actually do have some family members that have either had a liver transplant or have had some kind of liver disease. So it was a great cause for me.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
How was the weather and what was the day like there in Chicago?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so like the weather, it was a little cool in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
but you're like on like this like endorphins and like you're like ready, you don't care. So I was like, the cold didn't matter to me. It was warm when I ran. It was beautiful weather. It was like in its 60s, and at one point it got warm, like I could just feel the heat on my neck, and then it started to cool down. I felt the Chicago wind on the back of my neck.
Yeah.
But the weather was amazing. But my favorite part was like the crowd. Like
A lot of people there.
the cheering. I ran with 50,000 runners.
Wow.
The cheering was so cool. The crowds were amazing. I mean, you're running through the city, and each city, like, I felt like I was listening to like a Sunday church sermon at one point, and then I'm listening to like, different music with like a live DJ spinning. The crowds were amazing.
Now, do you have a chance while you're running? Do you notice like sights of the city and stuff,
Yes.
or are you so zoned in on the running part that
No,
you
I
don't?
looked at sights of the city, and at one point I even looked at like a building, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, Fairlife! I see Fairlife! Like that's where it's at."
Yeah.
I saw like Chinatown was really cool.
Were you by the lake at all?
I was by the lake.
That's a beautiful
It
area
was
down
just,
there.
everything was so amazing. And actually today they've opened up the entries for next year. And my gut is saying, just go do it. Just do it one more time. It was so fun.
Once you've run it, can you get back in?
I can.
Oh, that's good. You got to
Yeah.
do it. You got to do
Now,
it.
What about Boston? You
It's
going to
my
do
goal.
Boston?
It's my goal. It's my hopefully when I turn 50, I qualify for Boston. Like that's my thing.
Is that
want-
attainable for you?
I mean, it's hard to get into Boston because you have to have like their cutoff time is pretty intense. So I mean, lots more training. So for me, the plan right now is I'd like to complete all of the majors because I'd like my star.
Ooh.
But I think, like, for me, it's going to be a lot of speed work training, focus on, like, 5Ks, 10Ks, PR on another half. But, yeah, I can see myself signing up for another race.
All right. The most important question I have for you is, and I'm sure you've had, people ask you about this, but if someone comes to you what would you say to them if they have a certain goal like that? Maybe they want to get into marathons or it's anything else, because you wanted to send the message to your boys that you can accomplish anything if you, put in the time and focus on it. Like, what would you tell them based on your experience to start a journey to accomplish something that they don't think is possible or just are starting to think about?
Start small, but dream big. There's no way when I think even before during COVID, I didn't even used to work out. I remember Mike used to give me a hard time and be like, go to the gym, go relieve stress. But I never did until I found the one thing and I surrounded myself around people that were like-minded and had goals.
It's pretty amazing, Godfather.
It really is. By the way,
Yes.
think New York, too, if you can't get to
that's
Boston.
2026?
My friends who run marathons all tell me that New York is their favorite.
2026. I was talking to a guy that I met in Chicago, and he was from New York, and he said, if you think the crowds here are
Yeah.
amazing, wait till you go to New York. So I've actually put in a little letter to the charity to say, I'll run 2026 for
Nice.
you guys again.
That's
so
great. Sonny Ray, iHeart family member and marathon runner. It's funny, add Sonny to the list of people like, I'm so nervous. I don't know if I can do radio.
Yeah.
She
And then
handled that
come
with
on
no
the air.
problem.
Yeah.
She's a rock star.
Yeah.
You're full of it, Sonny.
Oh
You
my
just
God.
crushed
You
it.
could take over the show for crying out. In fact, I think I'm going to head
just
out
head
of
it-
here.
yeah, just
you
get
got
out
the
of
rest of the show.
well, you guys make it so easy.
Well, Sonny, thanks for coming in and sharing your story, and it inspires me, and I'm just proud of you, man. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
You rock. You kick
guys
ass.
have been so supportive. Thank you.
All right, Sonny Ray. We'll keep things rolling here on the Rip City Drive. We got our opener coming up tomorrow night. Warriors are in town. Tickets still available. Go to trailblazers.com. There'll be a T-shirt giveaway courtesy of Moda Health right here in your home of the Trailblazers 620 Rip City Radio. Boy, Godfather just delivered some sad news to me. And I realize that I'm getting older because the world's changing. Denny's is going to close 150 stores by when?
End of 2025.
Wow. And that's nationwide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we got the news yesterday that Sherry's had abruptly closed all of their Oregon locations. And based on what a couple of listeners have informed me of is that the Vancouver locations are shut down as well. And from what I could tell on that report that was put out, and it basically came out for an Oregon lottery report where they were reporting about Sherry's and those locations closing down. Sherry's is making just under $8 million annually from the Oregon lottery machines that they had at all their different restaurants.
And they still had to close?
Yeah. I think it was COVID that pretty much shut them down. A lot of
Yeah.
restaurants suffered immensely from COVID, obviously. That's what happens when you shut down businesses. It's very unfortunate. And for me, like, I have fond memories of Denny's and Sherry's.
Mm-hmm.
Hit the
Anybody
old-
that worked like swing shift or
Yeah.
late night graveyard, something like that, it was the only place open.
Yeah, it was open late night, Denny's and Sherry's. We would go down, when I was younger, we hit Upfront FX right there on the waterfront, go dancing and hanging out for the night. We'd hit Sherry's in Delta Park on the way back into the Couve. And we'd hang out there for a couple hours getting some coffee and a scramble, and a lot of people get pie or shakes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome. And Denny's the same way. They used to have this deal. This is probably what shut them down. Eventually led to the closing of the 150 stores by the end of 2025. But they used to have the sweetest birthday deal where if it was your birthday, you could go into any Denny's and they would give you a free meal, your choice of anything on the menu.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, man, that's the greatest thing ever. And so on my 16th birthday, my dad was like, hey, got a good idea. Of course, my dad, if it's free, he's got an idea surrounded by it. So we were going to go play golf. So we got up in the morning. We hit the Jansen Beach Denny's location before we went to Heron Lakes. And then on our way back home, we hit the Denny's in Hazeldale
I see you.
for a little lunch activity.
Yeah. Free breakfast, free lunch. Did you go there for dinner too?
We went to Orchards to get the free dinner.
Oh, gosh.
My dad's like, don't you feel better about yourself now? I said, yes, this is amazing.
Yeah. You felt better for a while, but 3 meals in one day at Denny's, you probably didn't feel good for long.
I was 16. I got away with it. But if I was now, 49-year-old Chad could not handle 3 separate trips to Denny's.
Yeah, that might be kind of greasy food.
But that was great. But, yeah, those type of restaurants that we used to frequent all the time when we were younger, they're a dying breed now. A lot of people are ordering food, just have it delivered to their house, or the younger generation's not hitting Sherry's or Denny's. They're going to different types of restaurants. It's just the changing of the guard.
When I started at the Oregon Journal, we had a night shift that started at 7 p.m. and ended at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't get in the composing room until after the Oregonian was done. So we put out our afternoon paper after that, or at least most of it. And then after 3 a.m., we hit Denny's for a little breakfast on the way home. And I'll tell you, the people watching at that point in time at a downtown Denny's, that was pretty amazing. They had one right by Portland State. We used to stop in there all the time. You get that Grand Slam breakfast.
Yeah. You can't beat that.
Yeah, the old Grand Slam. Yeah.
At least the Hot Cake House is still open over there at Powell.
Oh, yeah, right by the Ross Island Bridge.
24 hours.
Mm-hmm. Good food there. Good burgers.
Yeah, giant pancakes.
Little steak and eggs for breakfast once in a while.
All right, let's play the Tua audio. He's getting ready to come back from his most recent concussion.
This is
an all-timer right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll save it. We'll save it. I want to play it for you, but I don't want to rush.
Right. Yeah, there's got to be reaction time on this one.
Football players, they're going to do what they do. They're going to play
They're
football.
Different breed.
And I'm not surprised at all because this is what they do. I told you, I've talked to Lowe. With all things considered and based on how you feel now, with the concussions and the mangled fingers and everything, would you do it all over again? 100%. They didn't even hesitate. Yes, I would do it again. My guess is competing at that level is probably intoxicating, and then making a healthy salary to compete at that level is probably pretty intoxicating too. And being quarterback probably doesn't suck. That's my guess. So we'll hear from Tua next, and then we're going to hear from 3 different characters involved in the Oregon-Illinois game to get you prepped for that. And then we'll get back to the Blazers at 5:20 on their key objectives for the upcoming year. That's Dwight. I'm Chad. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, let's start with this Tua audio. And by the way, it's Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. We have another pair of tickets for Oklahoma City and Portland on November 1st. We'll give those away coming up in 20 minutes. Tua is set to make his return to the Dolphins, and he was asked about, the concerns about so many people worried about his health. How did he respond to that? Let's take a listen.
There were a lot of people out there legitimately worried about your health and making sure that you're okay. Mm-hmm. What would you say to those that are worried that you might get hurt again and this is something that's going to continue?
I appreciate your concern. I really do. I love this game, and I love it to the death of me. That's it.
Huh. Could have used a rephrase on that answer there from Tua. I love it to the death of me. He ain't lying. Jeez.
I hope it's not predictive in any way. That's a kind of clip that shows up 2 years later, after somebody is
after
expired.
Someone dies. Yeah. That's unfortunate. It's like, what? Come on, Tua.
There were a lot of people out there legitimately worried about your health and making sure that you're okay. Mm-hmm. What would you say to those that are worried that you might get hurt again and this is something that's going to continue?
I appreciate your concern. I really do. I love this game, and I love it to the death of me. That's it.
All right, that's it.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. Well said.
He made that clear.
Well, I've been consistent with my message through this. At the end of the day, he has to make the decision that is best for him.
Yeah.
If he wants to play football, then he should continue playing football. If he doesn't want to play football, then he should shut it down. But I don't like other adults trying to step in making decisions for other adults. I don't like it.
Yeah, and he said, I listened to the whole press conference, he said the symptoms were gone the next day. So he's been sitting around for a month, symptom-free, feeling good. He's, 26 years old, and it's pretty hard for him to accept the idea of not playing football anymore because he feels fine.
Yeah, and it's easy for you and I or anyone else to sit back and determine what's best for somebody else. But I can tell you what, if I was in his shoes, I would do the same thing.
Well, I think you and I are both really good at deciding what someone else should do,
Yeah.
but not so good with our own, we should do.
People are really good about telling other people what they need to do with their money, too.
Exactly.
Well, you're a billionaire. What do you care? It's like it's not your money. So.
Yeah. You shouldn't have sold that house down in Arizona. Yeah, I have people tell me that once in a while.
Well, that was a bad idea.
Yeah, I see.
That was a bad idea.
There you go.
Yep, that was a bad idea. People always told Paul Allen what he needed to do with his money, too.
That's right. They sure did.
Look, Tua's got to do what he thinks is best. If he wants to continue to play, then I think he should continue to play. That's a decision that's between him and his family. And I'm just telling you from what I know of athletes, they don't walk away from the game. It's really difficult for these guys to walk away because they're having an opportunity to do something that so few people get a chance to do. Playing football at the highest level at the quarterback position is unbelievable. And when you're making that type of money and you're ultra competitive and you want to go out there and challenge yourself, what else is he going to do? He wants to play. So he's going to go out there and play.
Yeah, and when you're making enormous money for playing a kid's game, that's a little difficult to walk away from.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they always tell pro athletes in any sport, make them tear that uniform off your back.
Yes.
Don't leave early. You'll regret it the rest of your life. Make them take that uniform away from you.
I mentioned the story before, but, the conversation I had with Jerry Rice when I was down in the Bay Area, he looked me in the eyes. I'm like, what have you found since the day that you stepped away from the game to replace that charge you got from running out on the field on Sunday? And he looked at me and said, I'm still searching. Yeah. Like, there's nothing like playing sports at that type of level. And it's hard for those guys to walk away because they know that there's nothing they can ever really find to truly replicate that experience.
Yeah.
So I get it. I didn't expect him to retire or shut it down or walk away, and he's going to play for the Dolphins again. My thought is, it's like, okay, so he's going to play. So what can they do or what can he do to put himself in a better position to avoid those type of situations in the future? That's what matters the most to me. Is it a matter of him getting rid of the football? Is it being smart when he moves around to try and get down and avoid the big hit? What's it going to take for him to not be in that situation again?
He was asked that at the news conference. First of all, he was asked if he was going to wear the Guardian helmet, which we know about. That's the one that they're wearing in practice a lot that keeps you from having a serious thing. He said, no, he's not wearing it. Okay, that's one thing he could have done, and it's legal to wear those in games now. The other thing, and he did say he was going to try and do this, be smarter. No, just you're a competitor. You want to get every ounce of yardage you can. You got to, but look, you're more valuable to the team when you're healthy than you are when you're hurt. So get down. Just get down on the ground. They had to teach him how to slide. He evidently didn't ever play baseball because he didn't know how to slide. And but he's got to learn to do that. If he doesn't start to slide once in a while and keeps taking hits, he's not going to last too long.
I would recommend that he start doing the Peyton Manning, like, fall down in the pocket. Like, if you know you're about to get sacked, just go down.
Yeah. Go down on your own. Yeah.
It was weird to see Manning do that late in his career, but I understood it. It's like, I'm too important to the team. I'm going to get sacked, so I might as well just fall down, have the whistle blow so that I don't take any contact. That's unnecessary.
Yeah. And you tell the official before the game, look, I'm going to hit the ground. Nobody's going to touch me. Blow the whistle when I go down,
Yeah. I'm not here to fake guys out. I'm just trying to avoid the big hit
Right.
and take care of myself.
This is not a trick. This is the real thing.
And I'm not even joking. Like, I would go to those extremes. If you want to play, he's got to make sure that he puts himself in a better position to avoid the hit that can have him be in that position where he's concussed again.
He also talked about how difficult he thought it was for somebody to fill in their offense with what he does with those quick drops, quick throws, get back, get set, and throw into guys so far down the field after he's set up because they're so fast.
Yeah.
They get down the field really quick. And I think this is true. He said guys coming in here it's hard for them to adjust to that. They're not accustomed to that. He has to unload real quick because those guys are so fast. They're out of sight, out of his range real fast.
2 seconds after the snap, Tyreek would be out of my range.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to get him the football.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, dude, you're too far downfield. I got that type of range, bro.
Yeah.
All right. Ducks taking on Illinois this weekend. Good thing it's going to be at home. Illinois is a good football team. So I do consider this a game where you just need to show up ready to roll or you could get yourself in trouble. They're well coached. Coach Bielema is one of the better coaches in college football, and they're playing a good brand of football. I want to play this from Aaron Henry, their defensive coordinator, talking about Dylan Gabriel and the Ducks offense. Seems like a fairly sharp individual.
I mean, this team is well balanced. They run the ball at a high clip. They throw it at a high clip. The quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, he does a tremendous job in managing that offense. And I'm sure he's probably being talked about in regards to the Heisman for a reason. Like, he's put up some ridiculous numbers against some really good opponents. And, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for our players, for our staff, for this university. But it's not so often that you get the chance to play the number one team in the country on the road, And so we're really, really looking forward to that here at the University of Illinois.
Does Dylan Gabriel have the most complete skill set of any quarterback he faced this year so far? What are some challenges in slowing him down?
I think part of the challenge is the guys he's throwing to. The guys he's throwing to, I mean, any one of those guys can beat you, right? You had to see a lot of teams play him one-on-one for various reasons, right? I think Ohio State did a little bit, and I mean, they win one-on-one matchups at a very, very, very high rate, And so, I mean, is he the most talented quarterback we've probably seen? Probably so, And it's not just because of his skill set. I think it's a combination of what he can do in the pocket, what he can do when he leaves the pocket, the player who he's handing the ball off to, and the guys who he's throwing the ball to. And so he is elite.
High praise for Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
He
stuff,
is
too.
elite.
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought of it like that, but it's not just Gabriel, right? Look at the skill position players and the speed he's got on the outside. So when you combine his experience at quarterback, his accuracy in delivering the football, his willingness to buy some time and get the football downfield, you're dealing with a lot of stuff there. And now they're starting to run the football really well, so they've got the balance back in their offense. And now the headaches that we wanted to see their offense give defenses early in the year, they're starting to get that now.
Yeah, they are. And their receivers are big time. They can catch everything he throws.
No question about it. Dan Lanning talking about the opportunity to take on Illinois.
They've already, started attacking this week. You had an opportunity to play a really good team. Coach Bielema's done an unbelievable job there at Illinois. He's a guy that I've followed throughout my career, even back to his days when he was at Iowa and Kansas State and Wisconsin as a young defensive coach. And then what he's been able to do there at Illinois is really impressive. I've always felt like watching his teams, they have a clear identity. They don't beat themselves. They play really hard. They're physical. I think all those things show up with this team. as well. They're playing really good football right now, so certainly a fun challenge for us. And again, expecting our fans to make an impact on this game, make our environment really special like they have all season. I think that'll be a benefit to us as we step out on the field on Saturday.
Some high praise from Lanning on Coach Bielema.
Dan Lanning's pretty smart on what he says, isn't he?
He's calculated. He's no dum-dum.
Yeah.
He knows what he wants to deliver. But I think the Ducks are in a position right now where if they play their game at home, they're likely going to win the game. Like, this is one of those games where they're going to win if they play their brand of football.
Yeah.
Illinois only wins if the Ducks make mistakes, meaning penalties, turnovers, those type of issues, which would put Illinois in a position to have a short field or confidence that they've got a chance because they get the early lead. Outside of that, Oregon's going to win the game.
It looks like Oregon has one of those teams that their offense is so explosive, even if they're not stopping the other team, it's going to be really hard to beat the Ducks because they can score. And I mean, they can score big when they want to.
No question about it. Coach Bielema, no nonsense. He had a chance to talk about the opportunity to play number one.
Super amount of respect. A young coach in his career, Dan Lanning, as soon as I met him several years back, but down to be around him since coming into conference and what you've seen him accomplish in his career already, just a very bright, intelligent football coach who's very gifted. And then the background that he shares being with Kirby and Nick, you can see the accomplishments he has already done and what's ahead of him. A very accomplished football team, good players all over the place. Offensively, a quarterback, in my opinion, that is playing as good as anybody in the country. A guy that really gets rid of the ball. He's been a couple different spots, but he's learned along the way and, has made Oregon his home and seen different stories about what he watched and growing up and what he was this dream to play at Oregon is really special to him. So when you got a quarterback in that environment with a team around him is always a challenge. Defensively, they're very good, very well coached.
There you go.
Mutual respect.
Yeah, I like that. This should be a good game. Illinois has played good football this year. The Ducks right now playing their best football this season. I mean, for me, it's just a matter of keeping the guys healthy. Stay healthy, baby.
Yeah, I think, and Bielema will have some things for them defensively that maybe they haven't seen. It'll probably be a little bit of a puzzle for them in the first quarter, I think.
Yeah, that's why I love having a guy like Dylan Gabriel back there. I mean, not good enough for Oklahoma, morons, but Dylan Gabriel having played more games than anyone.
Not that you're bitter about it.
Gosh, idiots.
Didn't bother you at all, did it?
I love Dylan Gabriel, and they let him walk. In fact, they encourage him to look elsewhere.
Because they thought they had their guy. Right?
Yeah. The problem is they don't have their guy. Good job.
That's a big problem.
Freaking idiots.
And so what you're seeing in Oklahoma is not the usual Sooner football season.
Yeah, they couldn't use a guy like Dylan Gabriel right now.
What's their record?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
they suck. They suck.
Yeah.
I'm really pissed off about that. I love Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for him that he went to a place that wanted him. The Ducks,
they're making pretty good use of him, too.
That was a shrewd move to go out there and secure him. They went from Bo Nix to Dylan Gabriel. That's the key to their success this year. They lose Bo Nix and they bring in a legit QB.
Yeah.
Bingo.
It's also made you wonder what's the future like. They're in on a 5-star quarterback they think they might get, but they're also prowling around to see who's going to be a free agent next year.
If you're a free agent QB and you jump in the portal, why wouldn't you look at Oregon based on their success?
Absolutely.
And they got money to spend on you as well.
Mm-hmm. You get the money, but you also get a wide-open offense with great receivers, great running backs, and a great offensive coordinator. What more do you want?
Yeah, good call, Venables. Good call. Idiot. Gosh. I mean, this is what I got. I got an arrogant head coach for my NFL team, and I got Brent Venables giving up on Dylan Gabriel.
Come on. The head coach of the Broncos is a genius, Chad. You know that.
Oh, gosh.
He's a genius.
Offensive guru, right?
Yeah, well, I think he invented the light bulb and electric car and a lot of things. He's a genius.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. Your chance at Trailblazer tickets is coming up next. And then, really, what are the objectives, the key objectives for the franchise this year? We'll discuss next. All right, Godfather. It's time for Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. Yeah, we made it too easy, I think, the first time around. So I thought maybe a trivia question might be good for the second pair of tickets. You okay with that?
I love your trivia questions. They're great.
All right, thank you. Every Tuesday, we're going to give away tickets to every Trailblazers game throughout the course of the entire season. Your telephone number, 503-248-0620. Trivia question. First person with the correct answer is going to get a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Thunder coming up November 1st at Moda Center. So if you know the answer, just fire away, 503-248-0620. Here's your question. Who is the all-time leader in touchdown passes for the Oregon Ducks? 503-248-0620. Fire away if you know the answer. Who is the all-time leader in touchdown passes for the Oregon Ducks? Now, we have some good candidates for this
They've had
potential
a lot of good quarterbacks.
answer here. Dan Fouts, terrific quarterback for the Ducks. Joey Harrington, terrific quarterback for the Ducks. Bo Nix, terrific quarterback for the Ducks.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis Dixon, Marcus Mariota. So many choices.
Norm Van Brocklin. Yeah.
503-248-0620 is your telephone number. If you know the answer, who is the all-time leader in touchdown passes for the Oregon Ducks, you will have a chance to win a pair of tickets to the Trailblazers and Thunder coming up at Moda Center on November 1st. All right, let's go out to the phones. And Nathan would like a chance at this. Nathan, I appreciate the phone call, my friend. Are you ready for me to ask you the question?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Who is the all-time leader in touchdown passes for the Oregon Ducks?
That would be Marcus Mariota.
That is correct. So here's the list. I didn't know the list until I looked it up, Godfather.
Yeah.
Mariota is the all-time leader with 105. I think he only played 3 seasons. Justin Herbert is second with 95. And Bo Nix in 2 years is third with 74.
Wow.
There you go. All right, Nathan, nice work, my friend. You're going to get a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Thunder coming up November 1st at Moda Center.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Thank you, guys.
You got it, buddy. All right, take him, Shacker, get his info, and he'll be good to go. Mariota with 105. That's a lot.
Whew, sure
Good
is.
gracious. Huh.
Yeah. Good job, Chad.
I think it shows how offense is changing, too, in college football.
I do think that question was a little too easy, though.
Well, I wasn't trying to
You
stump
got to
them.
make it harder.
No, I could.
Yeah, come on. Toughen it up a little bit.
We're getting into it. We're kicking off the year. Wait till we get a couple of years in. The weather sucks. I haven't played golf in 2 months, and I'm bitter. The questions are going to get progressively more difficult. I can guarantee that.
Good.
That's a good cup of coffee right there. All right, let's talk some Trailblazers, Godfather.
Yeah.
Season's going to kick off tomorrow. We already talked about the starting lineup. We expect Ant and Tamani Kamara to be your starting backcourt, which means Scoot Henderson will come off the bench tomorrow. And then we'll see what Chauncey does when Shaden Sharp returns to action here in a couple of weeks. I mean, really, though, with this team, we know they're not title contenders. We don't consider them playoff contenders. I guess if healthy, they could pursue and possibly be in a position for the play-in. But ultimately, what is the main objective for this franchise this year in your mind? What do you think they're looking to accomplish, number one?
Chad, in all honesty, a good lottery pick, I think, is the number one thing. They have been getting lottery picks now for a while. This is the year to go all in on it because this is a year that's talent rich.
Okay. Let's take the lottery out of it for just a moment. I think big picture, we both want them to be in a position to have access to one of those top picks in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take the lottery out of it,
okay,
what is the franchise trying to accomplish with some of the guys they have on the roster right now?
Okay, I would say they have to identify who's going to be a part of this franchise moving forward with its rebirth, with its playoff push at some point. Who's going to be here to be a part of that, the core group, and who's not? You got to identify that. And then once you've found that out, what you need to do is develop the ones who will be here. In other words, give them play time, have them playing a lot, get some experience for them. And the ones who aren't going to be a part of it, look to make good deals that increase your chances of getting good draft picks or getting a player who might be a part of your core moving forward.
All right. So this goes back to that discussion we had with Joe Cronin on Media Day, where I asked him how difficult it is when you don't get usable data like we saw last year, because so many guys missed time due to injury that they don't really have a lot of data on the guys to really know what they have. So what you're hoping for right now, then, and what you're saying is good health, which will promote playing time for everybody so that you can get some usable data on the players that you have, so you have a better idea of what they are, and then you can make a determination if they're going to be a part of your core moving forward.
You need to see more of Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp.
Number one. Those are your number one priorities, right?
Yeah. Yeah. High draft picks, high lottery picks, and guys who look to have potential. And so you got to find out if that potential is going to pay off.
I agree. I would say for me, if this franchise, the quickest way for them to turn around is to hit on both those players right there, Scoot and Shaden.
Yeah.
Meaning they develop, they become the players you think they're going to become, and they're key parts of that core group moving forward because of what you invested in them.
Right.
And we know how this works in the NBA or heck in sport, right? When you invest a lot in the draft pick and they don't hit, that can set you back.
That's critical error.
Because those high-value chips that you're using to acquire those players, if they don't hit, those resources are gone and you don't have access to replace those type of players.
Yeah.
You have to go back through the whole process again.
And if they do hit, then you got your backcourt. What you need to do with this draft is to find that front court player who's a real difference maker, because you still need – every team that's won has to have that one superstar, that one guy who can win you a series by himself almost.
Yeah. That's why people are salivating over players like Cooper Flagg.
Right.
He could very well be that type of player. I really don't know what Scoot or Shaden are yet. Now, I know based on what you've been told, the team feels pretty confident in what they have in Shaden Sharp.
I think they do.
But I'm not even sure they have enough data. Maybe they have more than they have on Scoot, but maybe they're not 100% certain of what they got in Shaden yet.
Yeah.
Definitely not Scoot. They're not sure. They need more information.
That's right. They really need both of them to go through this season relatively unscathed, uninjured. Shaden Sharp needs to do that. He needs to show him he can get through. He's had this injury in training camp. Shouldn't keep him out long. But then the rest of the season, I think he needs to show them he can get through a year healthy.
Okay, so number one priority is identifying the future core of the players you have. Who are they? Identify them, and then you know moving forward that these guys are going to be a part of the core moving forward.
Yeah.
So next up, after identifying the future, the core, then it's got to be player development, right?
Yeah.
Player development, and that list, I mean, we kind of identified the players in no particular order. Tamani Kamara, Donovan Clingan, their rookie center, who, by the way, has looked pretty good in his action in Summer League camp and preseason.
Yeah.
He moves much better than what I thought he was going to move for a guy of his size. I was very excited about what I saw on Friday night. I'm like, he doesn't look like a rookie. He's moving pretty well for a guy of his size. He's so strong. Like, I'm excited about what they have in him. Hopefully he'll get a chance to play.
What I like is he doesn't play with a lot of reluctance or hesitancy.
No.
He's very aggressive. He looks confident, even though he is a rookie big, which sometimes approach the game in the NBA in the beginning with a lot of reluctance.
All right, so development for Tamani, Donovan Clingan, Denny Advia, although I think they have a pretty good idea of what he is.
Advia, they know.
As you pointed out with Advia, the great thing is now with the playing time he's going to get because he's going to start, chances are he has maybe another level he can go to with his skill set to continue to get better.
Right.
So you may find that he's even better than what you thought when you got him. And they apparently were pretty excited to get him because they tried to acquire him before the deadline, and it didn't come together. After that, Scoot, Shaden, Jabari. So really you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 players that you're going to focus in on development-wise, priority-wise. Tamani, Donovan Clingan, Denny Advia, Scoot, Shaden, Jabari. Those guys. Got to develop them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you find through that process of development, okay, hopefully all of them, but if not, you know which ones of that group are going to be a part of your future moving forward.
Right.
But health also ties into development because if they're not available to play, then how can they develop?
Exactly. That's what we saw a little bit of last year. It's like Shaden Sharp. You know, if he could have had a couple of full seasons by now without injury, we would know so much more about him. We would know if he's the kind of player that they think he is going to be. He
All right.
might already be that kind of player if he had that kind of opportunity.
I mean, you talked about this earlier, but with the veterans they have, so whether you're Ant or Matisse Thybulle or Jeremy Grant or DeAndre Ayton, I mean, take your pick, right? Robert Williams.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need to showcase any of those guys because teams around the league, they know what each of those players are about.
Absolutely. Yeah. They know, in some cases, more about those players than Portland knows, really.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of when Cronin wants to make a move. If he gets the right deal, then I think those players right there could all possibly be traded at some point, potentially.
And I think he's holding tight to those players until he gets the deal he wants.
Yeah.
And I would assume the deal includes either good first-round picks or good players.
They would like players. If you can't get picks, and it's going to be hard to get picks in the upcoming draft, getting young players like Avia back who you think have a chance to be a part of your core, right? That's what you were talking about.
Yeah, and they'd like to get players on the same timeline as these guys, or at least close to the time. Avia's a little older probably than some of them, but this timeline are
Yeah,
close.
you don't want a 30-year-old.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You want guys in their young to mid-20s who can grow with this current group. That makes a lot of sense.
Hopefully on the first contract where the salary isn't big, which would free cap space up moving forward.
So with Robert Williams, do you need to play him just to show that he's healthy or just basically let the word be known that he's healthy? How does that
The
work?
only reason you would play him is to show that he is healthy. And I think you do so with care, hoping that he doesn't get hurt again. Because that's the only concern with Robert Williams. Every team in the league would love to have Robert Williams even on their bench because he's a big help in the locker room. He's a big help with young players. It's just that he's hurt so much.
Yeah.
And you don't want that.
What are the odds that we're going to see Jeremy Grant on the Lakers at some point this year?
Well, a lot of people think that the team for him to go, they need three from. They could use a good seasoned veteran power forward. Certainly, Grant knows how to play and can be an asset.
And I like how Cronin's playing this. No need to rush a deal with the Lakers right now.
Yeah, just let them stink while the season gets going,
And let LeBron start to turn up the pressure.
Right.
And then before you know it, Pelinka will call and he'll unload the draft picks. He doesn't want to unload to get Jeremy Grant because LeBron is pushing the buttons on that one.
Yeah.
That's the best way to play it. So for Chauncey Billups, look, we believe his days are numbered here in Portland. I mean, anytime a team has a coach, not just here in Portland, but anywhere, and he's in the fourth year of a 5-year deal and they don't pick up the final year, which is a team option, that tells you the coach is not going to be around much longer.
He's a lame duck.
Yeah. So we do expect a change pretty soon, but can Billups, not so much with the Trailblazers front office, with his work early in the season, can he change the way people around the league outside of Portland view him to put himself in a better position to possibly land a coaching job in the future?
Yeah, I think so, Chad. I think that roster here is not a roster that a lot of people in the league are concerned about or think has a chance to be a playoff team. He has a really rough start to the season. First 30 games are really difficult. But if he jumps out and wins even 15 of the first 30, it's going to change some impressions because nobody expects that out of these guys.
Okay. Tomorrow for the home opener, the game is not going to be on Channel 2. It's going to be on 2.2, which is one of the affiliate stations for K2. 2.2, which is also known as Charge. So if you have a digital receiver, you'll be able to access the game for free with 2.2. If you have Xfinity, that channel is 302.
Correct.
It will not be available, I believe, on DirecTV.
That's correct, too.
Or on YouTube TV, although they're continuing to work on things, so we could see changes with how you can access the games with YouTube TV and potentially DirecTV. But as of right now, you will not be able to watch the game tomorrow through those access points. Also, I believe, I never know how to pronounce it. Fubu's the dog. Is it Fobu or Fubu or Fubo?
Fubo, I think.
I think it's Fubo. It's going to be available, I've been told, on Fubo as well. So there you go. Those are your access points. You can go.
And digitally.
Well, I
If you
said
ha-
that. Yeah, I
Oh,
said
you did
digitally
say
with
that?
2.2.
But you got to have that antenna.
Yeah. I know this seems confusing, but it's really not. You just simply walk down or drive down, go to your local Fred Meyer or any electronics store,
Best Buy probably has.
They have them. And pick up a digital antenna, which you can spend more on it, but you can probably get one for $9.99.
And trust me, it doesn't have to go up on the roof. It's not like the old days where you get the ladder out.
Mine is sitting in my windowsill.
Right. That's a good place to put it, on the windowsill.
There's one place where you stick it in the back of your television, and then I put it in my windowsill, and then boom. I've got access to a gajillion free channels, and 2.2 is easy to find. And it's digital quality, so the picture is going to be good.
Yeah, you can get 4K, I think, with it.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. So just go out and get your digital antenna. You can watch the games for free. Every single freaking game. That's a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
If you want streaming, they got Blazer Vision, which I think is $120 for the season. Just go to trailblazers.com/watch. And those are your access points right now.
Pretty easy. Not a problem. Not a big problem.
No, free is good. I didn't have free when I was younger. I had to beg my dad to get Blazer cable, and his answer was always the same. No.
Yeah,
We're not paying $14.95 for a game.
And all I wanted to say about this whole thing is I would say 25% of the people tomorrow are going to turn to Channel 2 and think the game's on Channel 2 because they're not kind of keeping up with what's being written and talked about in regard to that channel. But don't panic if that happens. Just go get yourself that antenna, and you'll be fixed up in 10 minutes. It's not hard to install. You just pump it in a jack in the back of the TV, and you're there.
It's easy. And I told you, as I've mentioned multiple times, I use the digital antenna in my room, and I watch the free channels every night. I love it. I freaking love it. And it's going to be that easy for you. Or you can go Blazer Vision, which is the streaming element. Or you can access it on 302 through Xfinity. Or you can pull up Charge on Fubo and watch it that way. But the bottom line is it's free. Okay, let me explain that again. Free. Free. That's a good price.
Yeah. Especially if the antenna is like $10. I mean, come on. And you can spend more. If you live in the suburbs like me, I'm kind of out away even from the suburbs. I had to spend a little more for my antenna, but $36, something like that, because I'm so far out. But if you're not that far out, you won't need that. But even that, I mean, that's a bargain. What, are you kidding me? The games are free.
It's a bargain.
Yeah.
The stuff that kids have access to today, little Chad would have killed for that stuff.
Oh, gosh.
It drives me crazy.
Used to get 20 games a year. 20.
I used to really get upset that I couldn't access my teams for all their games when I was younger. I was like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
All right, when we come back, high fives here on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Hey, Godfather, we just uncovered a great question about the opener tomorrow night against the Warriors.
Yeah.
Which Trailblazer player is Draymond Green most likely to get into a tiff with on the floor?
Well, what I like most about this season is there's more than one answer on this one.
Yeah.
We have a few feisty guys this year.
There are 3 Trailblazers we identified as the most likely. Denny Advia,
Mm-hmm.
Tumani Kamara.
Yeah.
Who was the third guy? Donovan Clingan.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be surprised if Draymond got into it with all 3 of those guys tomorrow night.
See, I think that Draymond will love to try and mess with Klingon a little bit. I think he likes to play with the rookies a little.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, too, that Klingon's not putting up with it.
No.
He's not going to have it. It's just not going to work with him.
If he did put up with it, he would have Chauncey and Hurley on his ass after the game.
Yeah. Hurley be calling long distance.
He would call long distance. He'd be trying to get into the Blazer locker room. Hey, what's going on, man?
Yeah.
Don't let a guy do that to you in your house. He'll go crazy on him.
Yeah.
That's interesting. What's wild to me about the Trailblazers, they were the smallest team in the league for like ever, and now they're literally the biggest team in the league.
They legitimately are?
Yes. Travis
wow.
has confirmed that, the biggest team in the NBA. I can't believe it, but Robert Williams, Klingon, Ayton, and then look at the bevy of wings they got. Tamani's a big guy. Grant's a big dude. Avia, Ryan Rupert, and the list goes on. Banton, like they've got all sorts of length now. That's kind of nice.
Yeah. It's certainly a change.
It's a big change.
Yeah.
That's why I'm excited to see what that lineup looks like tomorrow. Just defensively to have more length and more active bodies. Avi is a capable defender, and obviously Tamani is. So, I mean, there's really not as much weakness on that team in terms of easy ways to attack them. You know, it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, interesting to me. High fives. Who would you like to hand one out to?
Let's go with
that important, huh?
Yeah, I'm really going to put a lot of thought into this one. Well, okay, can I say it now? After he played
he's going to play a bunch of sounders regardless.
I know. That's I'm trying to
play it before, after, during. You're going to get sounders on top of your head.
I'm trying to mess with him a little bit. Let's go with Frank Schwab today. Always a great interview.
I'm going to give one out to the New York Knicks for showing up with all the hype on opening night and getting their ass kicked by the Boston Celtics. Look, you don't have to watch a lot of basketball. I can tell you right now, the Boston Celtics are the team to beat. And it's obvious. They got the same roster coming back. They're the defending champs, and they can beat you every which way until Sunday.
Yeah, but they've held the Knicks. I think Knicks have held them to 74 in the first half. So.
74.
Yeah.
Tibbs is going to lose his mind. They're going to practice for like 5 hours tomorrow.
Yeah, and Karl Anthony Towns is going to be looking for a one-way flight back to Minneapolis.
Boy, how about Joel Embiid already making the announcement he's out for at least the first week?
Yeah, I saw a lot of people making the case. He played for free this summer on the Olympic team. That was fine. Now he's getting paid big bucks. He's sitting out, and he's already said he's not playing back-to-back games.
Well, if you want to tell me what the league's biggest problem is, it's that right there.
Yeah, load management.
Star players just deciding to sit games out.
Yeah.
Do the fans get a refund because Embiid's not playing? Because my
should.
guess is when they bought the tickets, they thought Embiid was going to be a part of the action.
Yep.
That's a bunch of horse
Paul
bleed.
George said now, too.
Oh, yeah. Thanks a lot, guys.
That's surprising, huh? That's like Kawhi Leonard not playing this early in the year. Oh, shocking. Who
What a
would have
mess.
thought? Paul George is starting to add up those missed games.
And yet there he was, the red-faced owner, quick to give Kawhi an extension. And good job, moron.
Dum-dum.
They got toilets, though.
No. Toilets forever.
Yeah, that's right. All right, big thanks to Sonny Ray and Frank Schwab. Big thanks to Michael Shacker. We're back tomorrow with Trailblazer coverage. We'll be live from Motor Center at 3 with the Rip City Drive. Blazers Game Day with Chris Burkhardt at 5, and then the Trailblazers and Warriors tip-off at 7 o'clock here in your home of the Blazers. 620 Rip City Radio presented by Coors Light.